Okay then. So let's begin. So basically, Boot Code. It's a boot camp by the Amrajyoti College of Engineering, Computer Society chapter, and NSS College of Engineering. So it's just a 3-day boot camp to on competitive coding and actually aimed for this IEEE Extreme. IEEE Extreme is coming in the next 2 weeks. So അതിൻ്റെ ആയിട്ടൊരു ഭാഗമായിട്ടൊരു ബൂട്ട് ക്യാമ്പ് കണ്ടക്ട് ചെയ്യാനായിരുന്നു. So let's start. I'll be taking the basics of competitive coding, and over the next 2 days we have Basil and others taking other sessions. Okay, so first thing, what's competitive coding? ആർക്കെങ്കിലും എന്തെങ്കിലും പറയാനുണ്ടോ? Any answers? I'd love to keep this an interactive session, hoping for your cooperation. ആർക്കെങ്കിലും എന്തെങ്കിലും what is competitive coding? ആർക്കും ഒന്നും പറയാൻ ഇല്ല എന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. Okay, so competitive coding is basically coding within a short time frame. Other like usually competitions are 1 hour, 3 hours, maybe up to 24 hours at times. IEEE Extreme is 24 hours. Other competitions are the ones hosted by Google are maybe only 3 hours. So competitive coding is basically what do you say? They give you a problem, you think of how to solve it, you code it, and you submit your code. That's it. Okay. So programming, it's fun. Okay, it's an exercise for your brain. So this is more like a mental sport. Okay, competitive programming is like if you code in the field of sports, competitive coding is one for the coders here. And it helps you think creatively, it helps you logically think, and it helps your analytical thinking. Okay, your art of thinking, it's also I guess somebody said it's competitive coding is the art of thinking. So yeah, so it's basically time limited, and it's the basic of art, thinking of art of thinking. Okay, so people confuse between hackathons and competitive coding. Okay, if people say both are coding, then what's the difference? So the difference is, in a hackathon, you try to develop a product. Okay, in competitive coding, you're just trying to solve a solution. Okay, it's a much more smaller part when you compare it to a hackathon. Hackathon, you're still trying to solve a larger problem, mostly real life problems in hackathons, but it's more involving a product where you develop products. Okay, so where you use web development, mean, all the mean, MERN, all that stack, or you use Flutter. Okay, so you use development languages and you make products or apps or something like websites. That's what you do in a hackathon. Okay, to solve real life problems. In competitive coding, it could involve real life problems, but it's not developing an app in the end. You're just writing a few lines of code and getting it. And both are time limited. Hackathons, they usually range from 24 hours, there are 36 hours and all that. Competitive coding, they start from even 1 hour. 1 hour competitions are there to 24 hours competitions are there. Okay, so that's the basic brief about competitive coding there. And why should you do competitive coding? Okay, so most of us are like, if you're an engineer, I'd suggest you have to learn coding. Okay, in any what way possible. uh, that's what's lacking in our engineers these days. Okay, so people അവർക്ക് code ചെയ്യാൻ അറിയത്തില്ല. Okay, uh, one thing will make you a better, efficient, and less error prone coder. That is error വരാതിരിക്കാൻ, because you're concentrating for that short amount of time, and then that short amount of time you're trying to get a solution, so it makes you think a lot. Okay, less errors, you'll go and then you'll be like, okay, there's less errors. And then errors sometimes you can't solve, sometimes they take a lot of time, but it's always patience. Okay, so it teaches you patience is the second point. Okay, and then second of all, once you know coding, once you have a base in coding, your technical programming interviews will be easy. Okay. uh, I had few interviews in the past few months, and it was all easy because I knew competitive coding. If you know how to code properly, technical programming interviews ഭയങ്കര ഈസിയാണ്. Okay. uh, and then it helps you increase your problem solving abilities. Okay, even in the real world, like after I've been in this competitive coding sphere, even in real life, except for coding, in real life problems, you get to solve it faster. But it's not a direct benefit of competitive coding, but indirectly it has helped your thought process in that way. So competitive coding is kind of a basic skill which is required for everyone actually. Okay, especially engineers. And uh, so since you're bounded by a time limit, it makes you write more time efficient codes. It makes you learn more things. Now, one good thing I'd say about a hackathon is, if you start learning during a hackathon, you'll learn more than what you sit അല്ലാതെ ഇരുന്നാൽ ഒരു പ്രൊജക്ട് ചെയ്യുവാണെങ്കിൽ you'll learn more in a hackathon, because within that time you need to get the code and you will find it somehow. So there's that driving factor or pushing factor on the when you have time limitations. പിന്നെ uh, when you do a competitive coding problem, there are various amount of test cases. ഒരു ചിലപ്പോൾ ഒരു 10 or 100 ടെസ്റ്റ് കേസ് കാണും. ഓക്കെ, ഈ ടെസ്റ്റ് കേസ് എല്ലാം judges all the possibilities that's supposed to come. Now ഇപ്പം ഒരു സിമ്പിൾ പ്രോഗ്രാം പറയാം. ഇപ്പൊ ഞാൻ I'll give you a sentence, ഒരു സെന്റൻസ് തന്നിട്ട് അതിനകത്ത് vowels എല്ലാം എടുത്ത് കളയണം. Okay, first thought you will be like, okay, just take small a, small e, small I, small o, small a, അതെല്ലാം എടുത്ത് കളയാം. There are cases where you could have only spaces. There might be no vowels. There are cases where you could have other characters. There are cases where you could have capital letters. So അതെല്ലാം നോക്കി വേണം ചെയ്യാൻ. So all the possibilities, it makes you think of all the possibilities surrounding that problem. Okay, so in that way that's fun. And then it helps debugging your code. So imagine, like, when you're going to a company, they give you 20 lines or maybe 200 lines of code. Okay, when you're used to competitive coding, you have short sets of code and you understand what each line does. Okay, debugging is like, okay, ഇവിടാണ് തെറ്റ്, ഇവിടാണ്, this is how the finding where the error is caused is what debugging is. Okay, and after debugging code only will the code work. Okay, it takes loads of attempts, and it keeps breaking your head. At times you don't do anything and then suddenly the code works. So it teaches you patience that way, and it teaches you how to debug your problems. Okay, and harder problems, like after you've spent a lot of time in competitive coding, harder problems, okay, they help you. So you can break down these harder problems into small modules, small programs. Like if you want to do something, you make it into model. It's called modularity. You learn it in second or third year. So you make them and then you solve them individually and then you combine them. So that's that. And finally, it helps you understand the programming memes or coding memes. Yeah, so that's pretty much why you should do competitive coding. There's loads of others. This is what I could think of. And how should one person get started? Okay, this is one question where nobody knows how to start. Okay, so first step in the process is choose a language. Okay, what I'd say on programming language, if you know C++, അറിയുന്ന ആൾക്കാരാണെങ്കിൽ, that is 11th and 12th പഠിച്ചോ or first year computer science പഠിച്ചാണെങ്കിൽ, C++ is the best way to go. Okay, most of the computer programmers use, for competitive coders use C++ simply because it's fast, it has a lot of functions. And yeah, it's like I believe there's about 60 to 70% of the competitive coders use C++. If you haven't started on any program, like എനിക്ക് ഒന്നും അറിയത്തില്ല, പ്രോഗ്രാമിംഗ് ലാംഗ്വേജ് എന്തോന്ന് അറിയത്തില്ല, ജാവ എന്തോന്ന് അറിയത്തില്ല, സി ഒന്നും അറിയത്തില്ല, സി ഇച്ചിരി അറിയാം, പൈത്തൺ ഇച്ചിരി അറിയാം, I'd suggest staying with Python. Okay, Python is the best language to start with. Okay, if you want to start any language, you start with Python. Java is also a good language. If you've learned Java in your 11th and 12th, then go ahead with Java. So Python, the one disadvantage of Python is when you solve these harder, higher end problems, uh, it's very slow. Okay, so they've done the studies on various programming languages. Python at times is very slow when compared to C++ and Java. So when you go to the higher end of the spectrum, then you might have time complexity issues. That is when you give millions of codes together. Uh, Python takes so much more time than C++. So for now, if you're starting, so what I'd suggest is you start with Python. If you're right in the beginner stage, start with Python. Python develop with it, then you can switch to other languages. So basically, you just need to know how problems work. Okay, language is not a huge matter right now. Okay, once you understand how to solve the problems, how to take the input, everything else will flow on its way. Okay, and once you choose a language, just start practicing. Okay, there's loads of platforms, there's loads of competitions. You can start from HackerEarth, HackerRank, CodeChef, CodeWars. There are loads of this thing. Okay, so you can start and then try registering for all these competition exams. Okay, so there's Google Code Jam, Kickstart, and Hashcode. They're throughout the year. I mean, so check those. IEEE Extreme is only for IEEE members. So yeah, and then there's lots of other competitive programmings, or saying hosted by different SBs and all that stuff. So first, practice on HackerEarth, HackerRank. Start the easy problems, understand how the flow goes. Okay, and then you can move into the medium. Once you solve the medium and hard problems, no, and like you can be like, okay, I am proficient. I'm confident in competitive programming. Okay, it's basically now the college will teach you how to make letters. Like they'll teach you English. How they teach you word by word. It is your duty to form a sentence. When you form a sentence, you have to make it a paragraph. When you make it a paragraph, you end up making a chapter, and then you make the book. So it's basically you have to use your logical thinking, or this thing, make, I would say, they'll teach you the basics, and you have to learn how to use the basics. Application is your part. Okay, uh, so I'll be starting with Python, just like how to take inputs and how to take out, how to print outputs. That's the basic one coder needs to know. And then we'll do a few basic problems on, so we can have a live interaction if required. Any questions until now? Anybody? എന്തെങ്കിലും ചോദ്യം ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ unmute. I really can't see the chat right now. If there's any questions, you can unmute and ask.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, am I audible? Okay.
Yes, you're audible.
So my doubt was that how does competitive programming, practicing competitive programming, help us in placement procedure?
Okay, that's a very good question. Okay, so in placement procedures. Okay, so right now I'm in my final year. I'm going through the placement process right now. Uh, I'll tell you what, the competitive programming is very important in placements. Okay, very important. I'd go to the extent to say that it's more important than your marks. Okay, uh, if you give me two choices, that if I had 7.5 CGPA, and if I knew competitive coding, and if you give me the other choice of having 10 CGPA with no competitive knowledge at all, I'd take the 7.5 CGPA any day. Okay, even if it's with supplies. Why? Because companies are right now looking to hire people with coders, who have the coding skills. Okay, recently there's this company called Soti. It's a Canadian company. Okay, they have their branch here in Kochi. So in their eligibility list, it's like, if you know coding, if you can solve our problems, and if you can pass the interview, okay, regardless of your supply, regardless of your CGPA, we will give you a job, and it'll be 7 lakh per annum. Okay, normal TCS jobs without much coding emphasis is all starts at 3 lakh, maybe 4 lakh at times. If you know coding, you're getting a job in 40 for 7 lakh. Okay, so you just have to solve the program. I'm telling you, just if you practice every day, maybe not practice every day, practice every day for half an hour. Okay, if you're in your first year, start practicing coding right now. I'm telling you, by the end of third year, fourth year, you'll be confident, you will be getting a job easily. Okay, you can mark my words there. But make sure you practice sincerely. You don't copy code. If you try, I mean, if you're not getting a solution, go. You can refer code. Okay, you can refer code, and you can understand the code and then write it in your own terms. Okay, so that's what you need to do. Uh, now as we there are Infosys, they have few rounds of coding. Okay, if you pass those rounds of coding, you will get a higher salary package. Okay, I believe there's a 8 lakh salary package, there's a 5 lakh salary package if you know very good coding. uh, if you're not that proficient in coding, you drop down to the 3 lakh package. Okay, so when you're comparing 3 lakh and 7 lakh, it's double the difference. Okay, just by knowing competitive coding. Okay, so that it's that important that you know coding. And just as I said in the start, studies have been held that what do you say, there is what do you say, studies have been saying that the engineers don't know how to code. That's why people are not getting jobs right now. Okay, so if you come to think of it, you study coding, okay, give it more importance maybe than your normal studies, you'll actually land up a job than if you actually sit and study full getting 10 CGPA actually. Okay, so it's very important. And one more example I can give is TCS digital and ninja packages. Okay, so they have two packages, the ninja package and the digital package. Ninja package, like there's a basic test you go, that is, it tests your aptitude, quantitative aptitude, verbal reasoning, English and all that. That's for the ninja package. If you are extremely good at coding, if you're extremely good at coding, they give you the digital package, which is 7 lakh per annum, 7 I believe. So it's literally double the salary. Why? Because you know coding. Okay, so it's pretty uh, good a benefit, so to start this thing. Is any other questions? uh, Whoever asked the question, I hope you've got the answer there. Any other questions?
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Yes,
From
yes.
you personally practice competitive program.
Sorry, it's not clear. I didn't hear that question. Can you repeat it?
Hello.
Yes.
From where do you practice personally competitive programming?
Okay. Okay. So where do I practice? Practice, it's there in the slide right now. So you study from Hacker Earth, HackerRank. There's Geeks for Geeks. Okay. So what I suggest is just jump into the coding world. Just jump into Hacker Earth, make an account, HackerRank, make an account, and start with the easy problems. First problem may be print hello world. Easy. Print, open the bracket, put hello world. That's it. Do the next problem. Okay, if you're not getting it, Google it. Okay, you Google it and then you start what do you say, start figuring out, okay, how to do this. One by one you learn things. Okay, so Geeks for Geeks is a very good site to learn things. Hacker Earth, HackerRank, they also have each detailed explanation on how to do the problem, how to face the problem. So those are the few sites. Codewars is one good site. Like Codewars, it teaches you how to make efficient code. Okay, so now I've told an example where you have to take vowels out of a sentence. Okay, so if a normal person does it, he'll take one line to take the input, one line to so traverse this thing. That's using a for loop, you traverse through the sentence, and sorry, and then you find if it is a e i o u, and then if it is a e i o u, you append it somewhere else or you throw it out. So by the time you print it, you've already reached 7 lines. But in Codewars, they'll teach you the most efficient code, and those code have been solved in one line in Python. One line, that is taking out the vowels, printing it. I mean, taking the input, taking out the vowels, and printing it all in one line. Okay, so Codeverse is a very good site if you want to make very short code, very efficient code. The other sites, they teach you how to do this. Okay, so yeah, that's your answer on where to practice coding. Any other questions?
Hello, there's a question in the chat box.
Okay.
Which are the companies prioritizing competitive coders?
Okay, companies. Okay, right now, speaking from my experience, I mean, most of the companies, like engineers, most of the companies, they prioritize on competitive coding. I can say, like, even from TCS, Infosys, SOTI, like all the companies which have come, they have a bit of this thing. For if it's for the developer type of role, okay. Now, like there are companies without this thing that's more of a maybe testing role or a quality analysis role, quality assurance role. Uh, like SOT and all, they are just 100% coding. You impress with our coding, that's it. We are taking it. The other companies, they give chance to the non-coders as well, so they can get jobs. There are coding type of jobs. There are what do you say, development type of jobs where you know develop. There's web development skills where you learn full stack, front end, back end. So that's another type of product-based companies. So there are loads of, I mean, like now, right now during this pandemic, there's no offline type interviews. So what TCS or what all these multinational companies do is they give nationalized test. Okay, when you give nationalized test, your competition range is everyone from one person in Jammu Kashmir to everyone in Kerala. Okay, before it was only the competition was only within your college friends, you know, your college batchmate. Right now, since it's all nationalized test, TCS has NQT, Infosys has InfyTQ. So those are every company, almost every company which is hiring engineers, that is the circuit branch engineers, they give an emphasis on coding, competitive coding. So make sure you stick and focus on competitive coding. Any other questions?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes. Yes, Zamil.
Yeah, okay. So as a basics, like when you get into competitive programming, what matters a lot? Like does the data structures and algorithm, does that matter a lot while getting into competitive programming?
Yes, to an extent, data structures, algorithms, they do matter. But you know, like there's always this what to say form that okay, I will study data structures, algorithms full, and then I will come and do competitive programming. Or even if you're looking at the development side, I will study Flutter full, or I'll study Node.js full, all the theory part, and then I will come and apply it to my projects. That's actually not the right way. If you start if you start applying your code, if you start doing competitive programming, and on parallelly you learn data structures and algorithms, okay, that's actually the best way. So you learn to apply them, and at the same time you learn the data structures and algorithms at the same time. So I feel that's the best way, in my opinion. Maybe there are people who would love to learn all theory. I haven't seen people like that, but it depends on your comfortability. Okay, so you need to know the basic data structures. Like in Python it is list, there's dictionaries, string, integer. You know the basic type of basic data types, and then you can start learning. In college they teach you all these algorithms. In the third and fourth year they start teaching all this algorithm. There's a subject, design analysis and algorithms. So they teach you all these algorithms, but application is what they lack at. Like most of the application you don't know where to apply it. You just, our education system is more like you learn it and then you vomit it on the paper. That's the actual default, I mean the defect of our education system. We struggle at application. Okay, so that's the way you can start little by doing some DSA problems, and then parallelly do coding problems, practice, and then yeah. Anybody else? So I mean I can start start doing some problems, show how. Okay, wait, before that we need to learn the importance, input methods and output methods. Okay, so basically Yeah. So basically, when you take when you start what do you say? When you take a problem, they'll give you a huge paragraph. Then they will give something called constraints. They'll give something called input, output, and some maybe sample test cases. Okay. So in this input output, they'll give you a number like maybe something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you go like, okay, how to give separate values or how to make it a list. So in Python, there are two ways on how to make it separate values. Okay, this is called method called list comprehension. Okay, it's called list comprehension because it uses the brackets. Okay, so there are two brackets here, which makes it a list. And this list comprehension is divided into two parts. Okay, so this is the first part, which inserts the element. Okay, and the second part is for the for loop. Okay, which is to traverse the numbers. Okay, and in this for loop, there is another sub part which is called input. Okay, so basically in Python 3, okay, in Python 3, it takes the input. So if you give this as input, if you give 1, 2, 3, 4 as input, it takes it as a string. So starting with double quotes, 1 space 2 space 3 space 4 and double quotes. So that's what input will hold. Okay, what split does is, if you give an M split with nothing inside this bracket, there's this bracket, if there's nothing inside the bracket, it'll split all these elements. Okay, so it'll split them into 1, 2, 3 and 4 separately. Okay, once you split them, you use this and you put it into the variable x. Okay, so and all these are strings because input takes only strings. Okay, it splits, it gives you various strings. So 1 is a string, 2 is a string, 3 is a separate string, 4 is a separate string. Okay, and it takes them and puts it into integer. Okay, it makes it into an integer. Okay, it makes x into an integer and gives you a list. Okay, and then if there are 4 variables on the left hand side, okay, if there are 4 variables on the left hand side, it'll automatically map all those 4 variables. So, and according to the order. Okay, so 1 goes to A, 2 will go to B, 3 will go to C, and 4 will go to D. Okay, that is if you want it like this. So after this line, A will be equal to 1, B will be equal to 2, C will be equal to 3, and D will be equal to 4. However, if you want them all in one list, that is, if you want them like this, L equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, you just have to change the left side. That is, make it one variable. Okay, if you make it one variable, it'll be like all the numbers will go to that one variable, it'll be a list. Okay, so that's one way of doing list comprehension. Okay, so this is the basic input. Okay, this is the basic first step of almost any competitive coding problem you're going to do. So taking the input. Okay, so I hope I'm clear. I'll explain this once more. Yeah, okay, so this is, I'll explain this once more. So this is how you start. If you want it in 4 different variables, you use this line and you give 4 different variables. Okay, you can use any other variable names, maybe PQRST or any names. That's not a problem. So make sure this x and this x is the same, because this x takes the input and passes it on to the integer function, which makes it an integer. Now, if you wanted it as a string, now if it was ABCD, ABC space, then you have DEF, DEF, you just have to put X over here. Okay, instead of this in text, just put X. Okay, and it'll be like A is equal to AB, ABC, B equal to DEF. Okay, that's the first method of doing it. Any questions? If there's any questions, kindly interrupt me. Any doubts or any issues in between, I can explain them once again. Okay, so that's the first method. Second method is using the map function. Okay, so the map function, it's a bit more simpler. Rather than you having a lot of different brackets here, this has only round brackets. It is similar to the previous method. So it takes an input, it splits the input, okay, and it puts into the function, that is integer. It makes each number an integer and it maps it to each variable here. So if there are 4 variables, there'll be, I mean, if there are 4 values and there are 4 variables, each value goes into each of the same. So your output will be like this. Okay. Similarly, if you want to make it a list, the additional part is you put a outside function, that is, you put list, you close it, and the same thing you can copy it there, so you get the output like this. Okay, so that's the basic input. How to take the basic input into a list or this. Yeah. Any questions on this part? On the input, we'll be doing a few problems after this, so that time will be more clearer. I'll move on to the output section. So output is the way you print problems. Okay, so there are certain programs where you have to define it in a function. Okay, I'll show you an example later on, where when you define it in a function, you have to return and all that. So this I'll be focusing on printing. Okay, so imagine this is your list. Okay, this is your answer. If you want, if your answer is 1 2 3 4, so they'll, in the problem they will tell, okay, output should be printed as different lines. Okay, so if you want to print it like this, 1 2 3 4 5, you just use a normal for loop. Okay, for I in the list. Okay, so since result is the list over here, you just do for I in result and you print I. So if you print I, you will get like this, that is 1 2 3 4 5 in all in separate lines. It can be used for integers. If the result had, you know, a b c d a b c d, it'll print a b c d all in separate lines. So separate elements, separate lines. Okay, the second method is if you want to print it in the same line. Okay, if you want to print it in the same line, you have to add this additional part, that is end equal to and you put a space. So if you want a space between each element, that's what comes here. So this space is determined what you put here. If you don't put any space, that is, if you put an empty string, it'll come all together as 1 2 3 4 all together. Okay, if you want a space, you can put if you put a space here, you can separate each and element. If you want to put a star, like a star will come in between each element here. Okay, and it'll come here also, because every that is, the meaning of this line is it prints an I, and it, after printing that I, it ends with this element, whatever element you give there. So it'll print 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, and 5 star also. Okay, so that's if you want to print in the same line. So there are other methods. So printing in the same line, yeah, so if you put just print result, if you put print result, it'll come just as a list with the square brackets, with the comma, etc. And if you, this is one method which many people don't know. If you put a star in front of the list name, okay, if you put a star in front of the list name, you will get it in this form. That is 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, 4 space, 5. Okay, so many answers, many outputs, they want it in this method. Okay, in one line, or you can have it in different lines. Okay, like this. So if you want to do this, just print like this, and if you want to do it in the same line, you can just put star. Okay, in certain competitions, like Google, I'm not sure which combination of Google, but Google has, you know, CodeJam, Kickstart, and Hashcode. In one case, they asked to print in a specific format. Okay, so format be like, one problem will have multiple test cases, as I said. So each test case, they want to print the test case number. That is, if this is the first test case, they'll put case 0, and you have to print your answer. If this test case, I mean test case number 1, you have to print your answer for that. So this is another way. It is using the dot format function. Okay, so this is like case. So what happens here is dot format, it has a few parameters or arguments. So whatever you put in this bracket, it comes and prints over here where there's a curly bracket. Okay, so now there are two variables. That is, there is I, there is result of I. So I prints in the first curly brackets, and result of I prints in the second curly brackets. Okay, so this is one of the better ways of, you know, getting your output all nicely formatted. sometimes Python has this problem of, they put unnecessary spaces when you're doing the normal print function. Okay, if you say print this, they'll put an additional space, so that time there might be a few issues. So I'd suggest, if you have to use a lot of, that is, if you're using a sentence that is, the answer is 5 bananas and 6 mangoes, where 5 and 6 are the answers, it's always better you use the format function. Okay, yeah, so that's the basics of input and output methods. We'll be doing some problems. Let me stop sharing my screen. Moving back. If there's any doubts, let me know. I'll clarify your doubts on the go. Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. So yeah, so this is how a problem is given. Okay, so this problem, it's only one line. Okay, since we're starting from the basics. Okay, so so you're basically given an array. You have to find the maximum and the minimum elements from the array. Okay, and then they give you a description on how the input is done, what should be the output. Okay, and they give you some constraints as well. Okay, and then they give you examples. Okay, examples like, for this certain input, this should be the output. And then in some cases they give you the test cases as well. Okay, so that's the question. Okay, so question is basically they give an array where to find the maximum and the minimum elements. Okay, so then you have to read this line carefully. This is the most important part. So the first line of the input contains an integer t. Okay, so what is t? It denotes the number of test cases. Okay, so what you do, you initially go make a variable t. You can, variable names are not, I mean, you don't have to stick to their variable names, but for better understanding, it's better to stick. Okay, so t equal to, and there, it's an input which gives you an integer. So basically you take an input. Okay, in Python 3, input function does, okay, it gives you a string. Okay, but this is an integer. They have specified the data type, so it is better to convert it into an integer. Sorry, yeah, it's better to convert it into an integer. Okay, so basically integer of the input here. Okay, and maybe in college they teach you to put enter limit or enter n. In competitive programming, nothing of that sort is required. Okay, you can leave your input brackets empty. Okay, in college, in my college labs and all, they be like enter limit or enter n or enter the value of n or something. In competitive coding, none of that is required. You can leave it blank. Okay, so basically you take an input and you convert it into an integer and you store it in t. That's the first line. Okay, and then the description of t test cases follows. Okay, and then they say that first line of each test case contains a single integer n. Okay, so basically they say this is the number of test cases. So as I said, one problem you can solve multiple test cases. Okay, so as I in my earlier example where I said you take out vowels, you can, they can give you 2 sentences, they can give you 3 sentences, they can give you hundreds of sentences. Your program has to be able to do for every problem. Okay, so here, that is the different number of test cases. Each sentence is a different test case. So here they said for the first line of each test case. So that means we need to keep repeating our program t number of times. Why? Because there are t test cases. So when you want to repeat your program, what do? You use a for loop. Okay, I hope people know the basics of basic for loop and all that. So we use for I in range, and since there are t test cases, we use t as the stop value. So this for loop will print t in, will execute t number of times, that is the test case number of times. Okay, and then they say the first line of each test case contains a single integer n. Okay, so single integer n, so we take n and we need to take it as input. So just as how we did for the t, we take int and we put an input. Okay, so that's how you do it here. That integer is taken and put into n. Okay, and then they say the second line contains n spaced integers denoting the elements of an array. Okay, so now, so if you check this example out, so 2 is what they said first. So basically t is equal to 2. Okay, that means there are two test cases. So 2 times you have to loop your program. Then comes 4, the first line of the first test case. So if you carefully look, this is the first test case, this is the second test case. Okay, then they said they'll give the value of n. Okay, n, the value is 4. Okay, 4 means, what does 4 mean? It denotes the size of the array. Okay, so that is 4, and then they give you 4 elements after that. Okay, here they say only 1 and they give only 1 element. Okay, so this line is the array, this line is also an array. Okay, so right now we take this input, that is it goes to n. Okay, and then as I explained in my slides, how to take the input of this is you can use two methods. There's list comprehension, there is map function. So I'm more comfortable with the list comprehension. List comprehension, you can use it in many types of context. Okay, will in the later, when you start doing the medium problems, you will understand how the list comprehension works. Okay, so try to focus on that as well. Okay, so now we make so we make an array, and yes, so there is for, okay, so using list comprehension, so since we need a list, we put square brackets, and then since it's all an integer, we put int of x, int of s if you want. Okay, and then we have to loop through these numbers. So when you loop through these numbers, that is for s in, you have to take the input, and when you open the input, you have to split the input. Okay, so this is what happens here. So you take the input, you split the input. Okay, all that splitting is given to a variable called s, and that s is being made into integers. Okay, you can use any variables, but make sure these two variables are the same. That is, right now I've used s, we can either make it r, and you have to make this also r. Okay, so I hope everyone's understood that. So for r in the input, the split input, make each of them an integer. So that's how this list comprehension works. Okay, that's a very important concept. You can use it for many other programs. Okay, like I've mentioned in my earlier slides, that code was, they use one line solutions to many easy problems. They use list comprehension is the most basic concept they use in their this thing. Okay, so if you don't know list comprehension, you might find it confusing what is happening here. So make sure you focus on list comprehension as well. Okay, so this line, it gives you what arr will be equal to what do you say, it'll be a list 5, 4, 2 and 1. Yeah, so here n will be equal to the variable 4. Okay, so now what we have to do, you have to find the maximum and the minimum elements of the array. Okay, so here they're saying the output. So if you just carefully look at our array, here the maximum input element is 5 and the minimum element is 1. Okay, so what you can do is you can use Python functions. Okay, there's a function called min and there's a function called max. So easily you can do that. So that is you have to print. Okay, or you can make it into a variable. It depends. Okay, so if you use a and you say max of the array. Okay, so you pass your array or you pass your list into this max function, and a's value. So here, what do you say? Here a's value will be equal to 5 in the first test case. Okay, and then you take them. You want to take the minimum value. Minimum value will be easy as minimum of the same array. That's it. Okay, and then you can easily go and you can go ahead and print a comma b. Okay, because they ask for the maximum element first and then the minimum element. So So apparently the problem is getting solved, but I don't know, there's an error with the other one. I mean, there's not an error, but it does not give us the right answers there. So here we've got the correct submission count. Problem is solved successfully. So that's easy on how to do a problem. Okay, we'll go to the next problem. The next problem will be how to reverse an array. Okay, so given an array of size, given an array of n, okay, given an array A of size n, you have to print the reverse of it. Okay, so just as the previous problem, there is a test case T. Okay, so you take the input. Sorry. Okay, and since we have to repeat whenever there's a test case, you have to use a while or a for loop because you have to repeat your program multiple times. Okay, so you use for I in range and you go T, and then T test cases follow, and each test case they contain 2 lines of input. So there's 2 lines of input, and the first line contains n, which is the size of the array. Okay, so n, which is int of input, and then they give the array A. Okay, so then they give the array A. Here we can use the map function. Okay, list map map, and then we need to convert it into integer, and then so I've explained this all in the slides. Okay, so list map in this thing. Okay, so basically now our array is a list. Okay, and you have to print the reverse of it. Okay, so in Python there's something called a list function. Okay, so it slice function. So in slice function, I'll explain it down here. So slice function is like you can print parts of the array, or you can print the array in any sort of form. So this is what you can put: start, stop, and the direction. Okay, so all these are indexes. Start is an index from 0 onwards. First element will be known as 0. Stop is another index, and direction can either be 1 or -1 if you want to print it in the reverse direction, or you can leave it blank. Okay, so that's the slicing operator. And so right now we need to print the full array. Okay, so if you leave the start and stop blank, it'll take the default value. So start default value is 0, stop default value is the end of the array. Okay, so what it does is like you leave it blank and you put -1 if you want to print it in the reverse direction. Okay, and then you do compile and run, which is supposed to give you in a reverse direction. Okay, now if you come to notice, the output is supposed to be 4321 without any square brackets, without any commas. Okay, so you can print it in 2 ways, just as I've told in my PPT. There is, you can print it with the star function, star method, or you can print it with the for loop, and then you print with end is equal to space. Okay, so I'll prefer printing using the star function, which is very simple. And there, so your output will be 4321 without any brackets or any comma. Okay, so now we can submit this problem, and there will be problem successfully solved. Okay, so in some platforms they give you this option of test against custom input. So you can really try your own input. So now if I want to give, okay, I'll give one test case, and then I give 6 elements. Okay, and then I give them an array of 3, 6, this 10 and 2. Okay, I have to print this in reverse order. So I am deciding what input goes in. Okay, and then when you compile and run, it'll print the array which I gave, the array which I gave in the reverse order. Okay, So these are all small programs. Okay, we can try reducing all these lines and all that, but we have to start doing the proper method. We'll do one more problem, and with that we can have a question answer session. Okay, so this is the other problem, rotate the array. Okay, so this is the question. Given unsorted array, you're given an array of size n, okay, and you have to rotate it by d elements. Okay, so let's read into this thing. We can initially go check the input on what they mean. Okay, so first, to understand what input it is, you have to read this line. Okay, so first line is input is t, which is denoting the number of test cases. That is t is equal to integer of input. Okay, and since it's a test case kind of problem, you have to do the for loop. Not all problems have test cases within your program, only if they mention it as test cases. So always make sure to read if there's test cases. Okay, if there's test cases, you have to use for loop or a while loop and run your program multiple times. Okay, and then the first line of each test case contains n, okay, denoting the size of the array. So you take the input this thing, and then there will be an integer d. Okay, so now if you noticed, there's two this thing. So this is n and 2 is d, and it both came in the same sentence, same line. So what do? We use the list comprehension method. We use the list comprehension method, that is int of x. For x in, you take the input and you split the input. Okay, and since we have two variables, we have to put two this thing. So number 5 will go to n and number 2 will go to d. Okay, that's that. And then next line we have the entire array. Okay, so this array can be however long, or I mean n elements. So I mean in Python we don't have to care on however long it is. That is the best part. So for us in Python, this n is kind of like useless. For maybe in C or C++, you have to go around a for loop that many number of times. Okay, so that's why they give you this n. Okay, so in Python it's not really required if you're using this method. Okay, so here you can use int of s for s in input dot split. So basically this line can be kind of by hearted. Okay, this list comprehension line. So almost most of the inputs are through this method. Okay, and yeah, so now you've got your input, you've got your n, and you got your d, and you got your list. Okay, so each test case has only two types of inputs as mentioned here, and this is the second test case. Okay, so now if you noticed, d will denote the number size of rotations. Okay, so apparently they are giving an explanation here, that is 1 2 3 4 5 when rotated by two elements. Okay, it becomes 3 4 5 1 2. Now initially this might sound weird. Okay, but then just think of it. If you try to rotate it once, and they've mentioned this clockwise as well. Okay, so that is 1 2 3 4 and 5. Okay, so try rotating this clockwise. That means 1 goes to the end. Okay, now that is in, you're going in this direction. Okay, so since you can't push anything, so 1 comes to this end. Okay, so that makes it 2 3 4 5 and 1. Okay, 2 3 4 5 and 1, that is if it is one rotation. Okay, what if you want to do two rotations? If you want to do two rotations, that means 2 will go to the end and it will be 3 4 5 1 2. Okay, that is two rotations. What if you want? Okay, so that is what is the answer here. So if you do trial and error through your own means, you'll realize 2 rotation, that means this is the answer that they want and that is what they expect. So does anybody have any idea on how to do this? Let's make it a more interactive session. Anybody over here? Like, you don't have to tell me the proper code. You just have to, tell me, okay, maybe use a for loop, maybe go do this, push that element to the end. Anybody volunteering to? There's anybody volunteering? We will be more interactive. We can try to get multiple ideas, Now there's multiple
Hello.
ways of solving this problem. Yes, okay, Zamil. Okay, thank you for volunteering. So,
Yeah.
okay, Zamil, tell me, what would you suggest on how to solve this problem?
I think we can the last problem you have suggested, the slicing thing. You can start from the nth position and go till the starting position should be the round number, and the ending position should be the number of so somehow like that.
Okay, can you explain once more again? Like are you using a
you can
for
do this.
loop every?
Yeah, like they'll give the rotation thing, so that the number of rotation means the number of the elements that have to be gone to the last of the list. Yeah, so
Okay, so
you should start,
yeah,
you
so
should start from that position and go to the end.
okay. So that's a very good method of doing it. I'll show you another method. Okay, like when you read this problem, okay, I'm right now I'm not doing Zamil's method. I'll come to Zamil's method later. So when you think of this problem, you have to shift. Okay, so what people think is we initially go and do a for loop. Okay, so for loop and you say I have to rotate it maybe how many 2 times. 2 is what? D. So you have to rotate it D times. So you go and put D. Okay, and you say that the first element has to go to the last. Yeah, the first element has to go to the last. That is what the initial thought comes. Okay, so I'm showing how the thought process works. Okay, so what you do is you make a an array. Okay, you say just as Zamil said, from the position that is you take L and you start from the first. I mean, you ignore the first element. Okay, and you go to the end and you add the first element. Okay, this might sound complicated for now, but this, okay, so what this means is, okay, now this means is 2 3 4 5. That is, it starts from index 1. Okay, that is over here. If anybody does not know the concept of index, I'll let you know here. So this is what, so if you want to, so one's position is called 0, so index is 0. 2's index is 1. Okay, so what this rotation does is it ignores the first element, takes all the rest of the elements and adds it to the end. Okay, so that's what this part does. Okay, that is, you take the rest of the elements except for the first element and you add the first element, that is index 0, you add it to the end. Okay, so this is what you initially think of, you rotating, you keep repeating the problems like that. Okay, and then okay, so and yeah, okay, and then we print L. So do you think any error will come? Anybody? Zamil, is this what you thought of, or is it another way? Hello, is Zamil there?
Rather than
I'm not
using
sure.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
without using that for
Okay.
loop, we
Another
could
method.
just we could
Yeah.
just
Okay,
like
fine.
L is
Use
equal
the
to L
index.
of square bracket, and yeah.
Exactly. Okay, fine. Okay, what Zamil says is a more faster method. I'll come to that. Okay. So this is what normal people think. Okay. You keep repeating this process every time. Okay, so the problem, okay, And here's another problem. So now if you run this problem, you'll probably get an error. Okay, so the error is here. So with Python, one thing I like about Python is you can understand what the error is. Okay, if they send this, you can understand what the error is. In other languages, I'm not a very good fan of. Okay, so it says can only concatenate list and not into the list, and it says in line 7. Okay, so you go to line 7. Okay, and you look at this. So they says can concatenate only list. So concatenate is adding two objects together. Okay, and it says you can't do an int. You can't add an int to a list. So if you look at this, this is an integer. If you print L of 0, it will come as an integer. This is not a list, but this slicing operator will give you a list. So basically, here you're adding a list and here you're adding an int. This is not possible. Okay, so that's what the error is here. Okay, so one hack is you can make it a list by adding a square bracket. Get it? Now you see, you put a square bracket around that element, that's a list. Now if you run this program, probably will work. Yes, so there's no errors, and they've printed it this way. If you look, the order is correct. That is 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, and there is 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, which is correct here as well. Okay, output they've asked without square brackets, without any comma. So I always suggest putting a star over there. So when you put a star, the square bracket and the comma vanishes. Okay, so that's the output right there. Okay, this is one way of solving the problem. Okay, this is one way of solving the problem, but when you submit this, it'll probably come as a wrong answer. Not wrong answer, it's actually time limit exceeded. Okay, so your program took more time than expected, and expected time limit is 4 seconds. So why does this type of error come is because you're using for loops. Okay, so for loops, try to avoid for loops wherever possible. Okay, but in avoidable circumstances, it's very hard. Okay, so so another method. So like why we say avoid for loops is like they have lots of test cases. Okay, so there are 10,000. Like if they give 10,000 values, your for loop will be running for 10,000 times, which is a lot of time. Get it? If you give 10,000 numbers, it has to loop for each of those 10,000 numbers, and if you say rotate for 10,000 times. Okay, so that is the problem of this. Okay, now Zamil suggested one method. Zamil, would you like to say if you thought of it properly? Zamil said,
Yeah, it might go like L is equal to L, then square bracket. The starting position should be D.
D. Okay.
And ending position should be it should be the default one. And you should add the another list of that is starting from 0 till D.
Okay, 0 till D. Okay, fine. So okay, 0, you can put 0 or you can not put 0. You can leave it as blank. Okay, this is what Zamil suggested. Okay, it is right, but it in certain test cases, I'll tell you. Okay, so this is problem solved successfully. Now this test case, it works properly here. Okay, now the constraint they said D is n number of times. Okay, now if I tell Zamil to rotate this array, the same array. Okay, okay, well, like one test case with 5, and if I ask him to rotate it 11 times. Okay, now and it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Zamil, do you think this program will run?
No.
Yeah. Why? Because like right now D is equal to 11. Okay. And L does not have any index called 11. So that is the problem here. Get it? So to those of you who still haven't understood, okay, I'll explain in detail right now. So this is your first initial array, L. Okay. Uh, After one rotation, okay, after one rotation, it'll be 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. After two rotations, you will be 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. After three rotations, you'll be like 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. And after four rotations, you will be like 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You go for the sixth rotation, you'll be like 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can go endless. So this problem, it said D is less than N. So thankfully, Zamil's problem was right. But if they remove this constraint and they say it can be anything, your program will fail. Okay. When you're solving a problem, just look at the constraints and you can solve it according to that. But normally, a problem like this will have D as unlimited this thing. So if you notice, there's a pattern. Okay, so this keeps now after five rotations. This is same as the L we've got over here. Get it? We can see it highlighted. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And when it is the sixth rotation, you've seen, okay, it is equal to whatever we did in the first rotation. So basically, whatever possible answers you're getting, it's only these five possible answers. Okay, there is no other possibility. When you're rotating arrays, there is no other possibility. There can only be five number of possibilities for this array. Why? Because it has five elements. Okay, five elements, you'll have five possibilities. For 10 elements, you'll have only 10 different possibilities. Okay, so what we can do here, okay, so basically, I'll write this. So when you're doing fifth rotation, it is equal to when we do zero rotations, correct? When we do the sixth rotation, it is equal to the one when we do one rotation. Okay, if you do the seventh one, it'll be equal to what we do in the second rotation. Okay, so if you should try to get the relationship between this 5 and this 1, this 7 and this 2. Okay, so that relation is if you think about it, when it's all increasing one by one, you can use something called as mod. Okay, mod is something called, okay, so D equal to D mod N. Okay, now mod, for those of you who don't know, it's a what to say, when you do division, you get a reminder. That reminder is mod. Okay, so now if you're doing 5 mod 5, okay, that is when you divide 5 divided by 5, what is the remainder you get? You get 0. So that's what mod does. Okay, that is what we want. So that this is correct. Now what if what if D is 6? When you divide it by 5, you get a remainder 1. Okay, and subsequently it keeps increasing. Okay, so what was Zamil's problem here? Zamil's problem over here was this D value is, what is it? It's going above our index. Our index was only supposed to come till 4. Okay, so how much ever you increase this value, if it is 7, 8, 9, 10, okay, how much ever you increase this value, if you noticed, your mod value will only be equal to 4. It will never be 5 or above 5. For 7 it will be 2. For 8 it will be 3. For 9 it will be 4. And for 10 it will be 0. Okay, so it keeps repeating. That repeating pattern is found over here. Okay, so you just need to mod in the number. Okay, you need to make sure that D is smaller. Okay, the D is within this thing indexes, that is, it is within it is below 5. Okay, since there was already a constraint here, it was fine, but in other problems this will be the error which will be coming. Okay. Yeah, so I can throw this out. We can print the line d mod n. Okay, so next you'll be wondering why d mod n and why did you put it d? D is because it is the number of rotations. That is the value which will be bigger. Okay, when you're dividing, you usually divide a bigger number by a smaller number. So that is the value that should be bigger. So if I told you 26 rotation, that means d. Okay, and then why did we choose n? N is because that is the length of the array. Okay, that is the maximum index, like maximum limit of the index. Like if this index has 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 is not possible. So that's why we do it by 5. And when you mod by 5, the maximum value of mod will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And that's that. So, and yeah, so it still comes as correct output. And if you submit it, it'll come as correct. Yeah, problem solved successfully. So this, so here there's no time limit exceeded because there's no for loop at all. Okay, if you notice there's no for loop, you solved it within one at one go. Okay, if you want, you can combine all these lines. You can print them directly. Okay, within that same line, I believe it'll work. Yeah, so problem solved successfully. So yeah, if you want, you can reduce the number of lines. Okay, now you're not using t as a variable anywhere. Okay, so you can take this int of input and replace it with this t over here. You're only using it once. This also is another way of doing it. Okay, if there's test case, that is take the for loop and take the input inside the range. I mean, this is more complicated, but I'm just telling you, like when you see other people's code, this is what is happening there, is what I want to show. Okay. Yeah, we've run past time, 7:70. Is there any questions? Any questions? You can drop it in the chat or unmute yourself. And that'll be probably the end of the session if there are no more questions.